Welcome to the first inaugural episode of Ethical Crossroads. In most podcasts focus on topics like ethics, integrity, and sustainability. You might hear breaking news or analysis about key events in the business world or answers to ethical dilemmas that compliance professionals face. While we are going to help capture key moments and frame difficult issues, the focus of this podcast is going to be about questions. In some episodes, like today, I'll raise and try to answer those questions myself. But in other episodes, I'll bring these questions up to leading experts in the ethics and compliance fields. As we know, asking the right questions often leads to the answers we're looking for. But more importantly, asking questions helps shape our thinking about a particular topic and helps us see the varied perspectives, approaches, and potential conflicts around an ethical dilemma. In our first episode today, we'll cover the fast-moving FTX story. While the world of crypto is unique and not necessarily comparable to other industries, the questions we can ask about this story should remind us about some of the basic ethical controls and structures that should be in place when managing any business. Well, let's get started. On December 13, 2022, the Securities and Exchange Commission filed a complaint against Sam Bankman-Fried alleging that SBF, as he's commonly known, engaged in a scheme to defraud investors and customers in his cryptocurrency exchange FTX by raising money from investors and then subsequently diverting these funds to his trading company Alameda Research and for his own personal benefit. The complaint marks the culmination of a weeks-long flurry of information, articles, and stories that can only really be compared to the Enron case from the early 2000s. Given the prevalence of the story, most of us have a general understanding of the events that took place leading to FTX's bankruptcy filing and the SEC's recent actions against the exchange. But in any case, a brief recap helps put any questions in perspective. SBF has been deemed a whiz kid in the crypto industry. With his crypto empire being valued in the billions, SBF, who had experience as a trader, started FTX in 2019 and Alameda Research back in 2017. Unlike other crypto trading platforms such as Coinbase, FTX specialized in assets such as tokenized stocks and other risky assets that require them to be domiciled outside the US. FTX had its own crypto token called FTT. Keep that name in mind because it's integral to the story. But in early November 2022, concerns were raised when a CoinDesk article indicated that a large majority of Alameda Research's assets were held in FTT. It appears that SBF initiated a transfer of around $10 billion in assets from FTX to Alameda Research to hedge investments made by the latter. News regarding this type of asset balance may have led to massive withdrawals from investors, leaving FTX in a predicament and weakened state. So what was FTX to do? FTX's lone solution at this point, at least from their perspective, may have been acquisition by Binance, a rival crypto trading platform. Binance was an early investor in FTX, though this was allegedly a troubled relationship, with Binance buying in early at reportedly around $100 million and later selling its stake back to FTX at nearly $2 billion, mainly in FTT. The ultimate death blow was when Binance liquidated its FTT assets, leading to FTX's eventual bankruptcy filing. With that recap in mind, let's get to our questions. The first question in this case has to be around corporate governance. What role could proper corporate governance have played in preventing wrongful action that eventually led to FTX's bankruptcy, or could have guided the company to make more prudent decisions? FTX's alleged transfer of $10 billion in assets to Alameda Research, much of it in the form of its own cryptocurrency, could have likely benefited from additional controls or oversight. While the facts are still somewhat murky and are being clarified, it seems that SBF directed this transfer unilaterally. Such a large transfer, regardless of the structure of the business, could have benefited from additional oversight by FTX management. The second question I'd like to raise is around due diligence. Where could FTX have employed more robust due diligence practices to prevent actions or safeguard against entering into relationships that eventually led to its demise? What we know from the record is that FTX's relationship with Binance, the rival crypto firm, may have been a significant reason for FTX's eventual insolvency. Binance was an early investor, reportedly buying into FTX at just $100 million. but selling its stake back to FTX at nearly $2 billion and eventually liquidating its assets to further harm FTX. While it's unclear what level of due diligence was conducted as part of these transactions, due diligence on Binance was imperative, considering the amount of money involved and the fact that Binance's identity seems synonymous with a single person, its owner and founder, Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, and also considering that the exchange has been under investigation itself by multiple government authorities. The last question I'd like to raise is around the regulation of crypto. This is a huge question and a source of endless debate, not one I can really answer myself. But to what extent could federal or other regulation of crypto have aided or guided FTX in properly managing its affairs? While the FTX story is the one capturing headlines, there are other crypto companies and founders under fire investigation, which begs the question as to not only whether crypto should be regulated, but how regulation or enforcement could help guide exchanges and crypto firms in managing their business practices ethically and in accordance with the public's expectations. That brings us to the end of our first podcast. My name is Varun Chandrasekharan, a 10-year veteran of the compliance and risk management industries. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to give it a like or a rating, and follow or subscribe so you can be alerted about future episodes.